Hello, and welcome to Indie Encounter. My name is Mark Wilson Jordan. The mission of our show is to give independent performers and artists access to as wide an audience as possible, and to give you, our viewers, a window into their art, their artistic process, and why they have chosen their particular avenue to connect with the world. All art is about communication and connection. The writer and director of two critically acclaimed documentaries, Supporting Actors, about studying acting and launching an acting career in Los Angeles, and Match and Marry, about arranged marriages in the Orthodox Jewish community in the United States. Today we're going to have a visit from documentarians Suzannah Warlick and Michael Schwartz. But before we meet them, we're going to see some video sound bites from their work in progress Scandinavian stories.
I came from hell to paradise.
I live thanks to Hitler. Because if it hadn't been for Hitler, my father wouldn't have had to escape, and he would never have met my mother, and I wouldn't have been born. And I'm happy to be born, and should I really be happy to be born under those circumstances?
The most important people in my life was dead people.
I got a telegram from my brother in Cleveland that my brother John and his wife Bex had managed to escape to Sweden. The feeling of exuberance, call it. He's thinking you have lost everything, and suddenly you find in your pocket a $100 bill.
So it was not very nice to get caught, because you couldn't stand up to that very long. They'd like pull your nails and dunk you on the water in the top of water, you know, hold you down, and you were almost drowning, and beat you under the feet with a stick, burn you with cigarettes and cigars, nice little things like that.
I was very scared. We were scared, and we had to wait until the night was not the night when we had to cross the sea. The night should not be too clear, because the moon, we had to wait. There was a shadow because of the Germans' patrol boat.
It's just so mind-boggling that those shoes were on that cursed, bloody soil of Auschwitz.
Wow. Suzannah, Michael, welcome to Indie Encounter.
Thank you.
So, we just saw some very powerful clips from your work in progress, which your working title is Scandinavian Stories. Tell me how you got the idea for the movie.
So the idea came from a woman who I had in my previous documentary, Match and Marry, and she happened to come from Scandinavia. And after I interviewed her for my previous documentary, she called me and said, Suzannah, I have a good topic. This has never been done before. I come from Sweden. I was living there during the Holocaust, during the war years, and I never had a clue of what was going on because the war never affected her in Sweden, because Sweden was neutral and they didn't sustain all of the horrors and persecution that other countries did during the war. So I thought, oh, okay, another Holocaust movie. And then I went up to my wonderful boss at the time, who happens to be you. And I told you that this woman wants me to do this movie, and I wasn't sure because I wasn't so interested in making a Holocaust movie. And then my wonderful boss handed me a check and said, go make your next movie. So I thought, okay, somebody up there must want me to make a movie. And then that's when I said, okay, Hannah, I'm coming along. And then I brought Michael along with me to help me out, who I also met through my last documentary, Match and Marry.
Oh, so things are interconnected.
Yes, yes, we're all together.
But you already had the idea for this movie. You just needed a little push to go, because you did principal filming in Scandinavia, right?
Yeah, well, what happened was when everything fell in place, you know, you gave me the check, and Hannah knew a lot of contacts in Scandinavia, so that's when we decided to go. Because I thought, okay, you know, everything's in place. And as we got there and as we were getting ready to go, we made more contacts in Scandinavia.
Okay. And Michael, you got pulled in at what point?
Since the beginning, actually. I mean, she told me about this documentary, and I know Hannah, the woman who was in her other movie, Match and Marry, from her previous, you know, film, and we spoke, and I kind of got the good idea. She was telling her story, and she said, "You want to come to Scandinavia? You want to go to Sweden?" I said, "Sure." I had just moved here from New York, and I had free time, and this is something I wanted to do, and I said, "Sure," and we just took off. In fact, I went. Was it a week or so ahead of Suzannah, and I joined this woman. She has a tour group that she takes along in Scandinavia. She goes and she shows all the sites of the rescues and what happened here, and I guess the Jewish plight of what happened before, during, and after the war. So I followed her and I caught up with her tour group, and we went around. I think we met in Scandinavia, and then we went right to Helsinki, and then we went to. I think I met you back. I met Suzannah back in Scandinavia, and so many things happened. It was incredible.
And the people who are the subjects in the film were actually hidden by, they're Jews, but they were hidden by Scandinavian people during World War II?
Well, it's interesting because each country had something different. I guess in many ways, like Norway was different than, you know, Sweden was neutral. You know, they took in the Jews. The Denmark, they rescued their Jews. In Denmark, they actually rescued most of their Jews. I think like 720 of them were rescued by boats in different fishermen towns. They were rescued to Sweden. Where Norway, I think a lot of the Jews were slaughtered. I mean, they were betrayed by their government. They were betrayed by a gentleman called Quisling, who was a Norwegian who became a Nazi sympathizer. And then Finland was confused because the Jews were fighting with the Germans against the natural enemy, which was Russia. So you had Jews who were on the German side fighting for Finland against Russia, and then the Germans turned around and said, "We want your Jews," and the Finland or Finlandia country, I guess, said, you know, they fought with you, they fought to protect you, and I think eventually they had to give some Jews over to the Germans. So each country has its own story. It's like, you know, I consider it like four brothers. Like each brother has a different story, or maybe, you know, and so each country has something that's involved as far as, like, you know, what they had their purpose in this. So.
Right. Wow. But each of the persons who appears in the movie telling their story, they basically survived the Holocaust in Scandinavia?
Yeah, it was basically, we have a mixture of survivors and people who rescued people, all from Scandinavia. And sometimes we're outside of Scandinavia because a lot of people were rescued from Budapest to come to Sweden. So Sweden was like the place where you needed to get to. If you were Jewish in Europe, you needed to get there in order not to be touched. And that was all the rescues were towards Sweden. So we have a little mixture of different types of people. And so we have some Holocaust stories of people who were actually in the concentration camps who made their way to Sweden. We have people who escaped from Norway and from Denmark to get to Sweden. And then we have Swedish people who were there to tell us all about how Sweden was during the time.
During that time. Mm-hmm. And so your tie-in to this was Hannah.
Hannah, because she was one of the residents of Sweden, and she was a young girl, a teenage girl, and all this was happening around her, and she had no clue card that there was a war on, that Jews were getting, killed. And so her story is how she had such a normal life living in Europe in the middle of the Holocaust years.
But she lives here now.
Now she lives here, and there's a little backstory also. where her father was the main rabbi in Stockholm, and they were very secure in their home in Sweden. But for fear of assimilation, the father uprooted himself and his family and came to the United States because he was seeing how, when the Jewish people started to come into Sweden, the Swedish people were very good to the Jews, and the Jews were assimilating and kind of forgetting where they came from. They were forgetting their religion, they weren't practicing, and so the father was very upset about that and didn't want that happening to his kids. So they uprooted and came to the United States, which was like another horrifying story, because doing that got him killed. He was killed, just mugged in the park in Boston, shortly after they moved here.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Isn't that sad?
Yeah, it was.
That's sad.
And that was in the 40s or 50s?
1951, I think. Yeah, 1951.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was Jewish.
Well, I don't think he just.
It was a.
He was walking her towards her brother had a TV set, and she wanted to see the ball drop in Times Square. So the father, it was snowing, he walked her across the park to the house, dropped her off, and then he walked back. And then I think Hannah says she remembered hearing sirens and not knowing what it was, and then she found out later that while they were mugging him, I guess his head hit a rock, and he was in the hospital, and then he passed away, unfortunately. So
after coming to America.
After all that.
So tell us about some of the people we saw in the clip. They're all 80s, 90s?
Well, yeah. I mean, so far I have to say, unfortunately, about 4 people that I know of have passed away since we shot this, because they are all in their 80s and 90s right now, depending on how old they were during the war. So
your project takes on added significance to their families because you have been able to capture and preserve their story.
Right. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that we came across almost in most of our interviews when we were interviewing survivors was that, they were commenting, it's so good that you're doing this. Everybody needs to know about this. People are forgetting. It's going to be like World War I, where, people don't talk about World War I anymore. Well, the next generation, won't be talking about World War II so much. So, just to keep it going, just to tell people stories is a good thing. That, they were very appreciative.
Great. Mm-hmm. At this point, we're going to have the clip.
Clip, yes.
And it's about 3 minutes?
Yeah, it's about 3 minutes.
Okay, we're going to see a clip from the work in progress.
Hold on. Wait, let him say what? I come off as being really nasty.
Okay, do you want to explain the clip after or before?
We'll talk about that after. And because it will speak to the challenge, the artistic challenge of bringing an important story to the world. Okay? Let's have that clip.
This is a picture of him. Och det där är dina föräldrar.
Mina föräldrar.
That's his parents over there on the wall.
His parents died in Holocaust?
Dina föräldrar dog i krigstiden eller tidigare? No, in the war, in the Holocaust, yes.
8 children. And how many survived in Holocaust?
Hur många var det efter kriget? Bara du.
Did he ever
He was the only one.
Was he the only one?
I think so.
Ask him.
No.
Please.
No.
Hannah?
No.
Please.
No, absolutely.
Tell him that I insist.
No.
Tell him it's me.
No.
Please.
No.
Hannah, it's good video.
No, I can't.
You're ruining my video.
No, I can't.
Who's this on the wall here? Behind you.
Vem är det?
dochter.
Oh, that's the daughter and her husband.
Och das ist die Tochter.
Hannah asked.
No, I can't.
Hannah, I'm going to be very mad at you. I made this whole big trip for this, and you're not.
I can't do that. No, I will not ask that. No.
I want you to...
I will write it down in
Right.
the language that you can ask it and you
Okay.
Jag tycker inte om frågan, det är därför jag inte vill fråga dig.
Säg snart.
Vadå?
Säg inte alls. Alls radio.
Har du svar på det där?
Inte lätt.
Det är inte lätt. It's not an easy question.
Yeah, tell him, ask me.
Ja.
Does he ever ask himself why he was the one that lived on?
Undrar du någon gång om varför du var den som var vald att leva?
Ich weiß nicht warum.
No, man kan inte...
Ich bin gewesen immer Optimist.
He was an optimist.
Du hast gesagt, das passiert nicht mir.
Whatever was
Das heute.
happening.
Ich kann Hohenberg nicht gewesen. Sind hier keine ich gewesen Krieg in die Krieg. Keine.
Nobody was smart. Nobody could understand and nobody could know anything.
Keine.
Nobody. No, det är sant. Det är totalt sant. Det var en upp och ner värld.
Vergessen. Unseren schönen Ort vergessen.
Wer vergessen?
Unsere Eden am
We
schönen Ort
say it
vergessen.
even we Jews are beginning to forget, and we're forgetting, and it's important.
Tell him that's why his story is important. That we don't forget.
Hon säger att det är väldigt viktigt att du sa det så att man ska komma ihåg och man ska veta vad som hände på den här tiden.
Och sie har größten Preis bezahlt.
The price was too high. Det är sant. Ja, har du rätt. Ja, har du rätt.
Ja.
Tack så väldigt mycket.
Inget jag tackar. No.
Gott nytt år.
No.
Allt
I
gott.
get you.
Allt gott ska du.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful stuff. And there's the artistic discussion about what you wanted to film, what you wanted to talk about during the shooting of that sequence. And I know there's been some discussion between the two of you about which parts of that should be included in your movie. Would you each talk to the controversy?
Well, he wants it in. I'm not sure if I want it in. I have to tell you just a little backstory behind that. You know, she was asking him easy questions and he was getting kind of annoyed. But, you know, I just wanted to ask him, come on, be real. How do you feel being the only one? What's your life like being the only one? You know, and I know that anybody would have faced this before. And I feel like I was being insensitive, but that's more interesting to me than how many grandchildren you have, how many kids you have, you know? So I was getting a little bit upset with Hannah, being that I couldn't converse with him since he didn't speak English. And I wanted her to ask these questions. And then also, I had talked to a manager in the past about, you know, previous documentaries. And I've been turned down because my documentaries haven't been controversial enough. So it's like, well, this is hardly controversial, but a little bit of an explanation of this would have made it interesting to me.
To the reality and the humanity of the situation.
Pretty much.
Okay. Your take on it.
It's a tough question. When you do this film, especially with Holocaust survivors, you have to ask certain questions that are, they're not comfortable and they're really personal. And what I really would draw me to this clip was the fact that Suzannah was being. I mean, it sounded like she was trying to get to the heart of the matter, and the fact that the woman Hannah did not want to hurt this man's feelings, feeling that he's been hurt enough. But you can see the drama unfolding. The pain in his eyes, the suffering. You can almost see him going back, not wanting to answer this question. And then, I mean, we have to ask these questions. We have to get, to ask the questions, we have to get the answers, we have to understand what these people, or try to experience what they went through in their own words. Otherwise, I mean, as he said, they're forgetting. He says, even us Jews are forgetting, we're forgetting. And then Suzannah turns and is saying, that's why we're doing this story. Doing a documentary, doing a film, and if you're doing a subject that's, I don't say controversial, but something that's, something that's gut-wrenching or draws at your heartstrings, there's certain questions you have to ask and it has to be answered, and to get that across. And I love this clip. I think it's great, and I want it in there because it just shows the drama back and forth between these two, between Hannah and Suzannah, and then this man just falls right into the middle, and he does kind of answer the question.
Right, and that's sort of the drama to get to the story,
right? To get to the
which
story,
is dramatic,
right,
and heartrending in and of itself,
right.
And I think you were concerned about how you were going to come off in that clip, but I think the end of the clip suggests that it was worth the journey.
Yeah.
As I think you might find when you finish the film,
right.
You're having, you're at loggerheads right now and ongoingly, but isn't it worth the?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have a lot of we have a lot of good clips and a lot of heart-wrenching clips. And to me, I like the escape stories. It's very, because I put myself in that place and I say, oh my God, I just fall down and die. I would never be able to do what half these people did. And, there was stories, Sweden was the place to get to. Well, from Denmark, you cross the water. And that's harrowing in itself, to be hidden in a fishing boat underneath fish. And then from Norway, the border is all forest. And so I have some stories about escapes from Norway to Sweden that were really harrowing. I mean, they're walking in the forest for days and days. They have to sedate their kids so that this way they don't cry. I mean, to the point where some people sedated them too much that they killed their own kids. So, and I'm saying, oh my God, I could never live over this. It's amazing.
Well, we never know what we're going to be able to do until we get there.
Yes.
Right.
Fortunately for us, we haven't been put in that situation.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So, it's very good.
Well, I will just encourage you to continue to remain engaged. So what's your time frame?
Well, as I was trying to put some clips together, I really wanted to get this done by August, but oh my God, it's going to be very daunting. We do need to get some stock footage going to help move the stories along. We have a lovely travelogue of Scandinavia, but my time frame hopefully is by the end of the year. We'll see what happens.
So then we'll be able to look for this movie in 2012 on the film festival circuit?
One would hope. Yes, one would hope. Yeah, that's our first order of business.
Okay. And is this your only project that the two of you are working on now?
Well, we do have a one in the back drop about a man who has breast cancer.
An 82-year-old man. He has breast cancer. He lives actually here in California. And his wife, when she was young, died of breast cancer. And he had to bring, and this is 1960, I think 63 or 64, and he has 3 girls, and he had to raise the 3 girls by himself. And the story about how he's dealing with the breast cancer and the treatment, and because you don't hear it as much. You hear women obviously, but you don't hear it as much as women.
Right. So another powerful subject that will be of interest to many people.
Right.
And just on a side note, as a documentary filmmaker, and for anybody who wants to make films, it's always good to pinpoint an audience before you start any film. So, like with the Holocaust, we have a built-in audience. For anybody who's interested in Holocaust movies, any survivors, rescuers, we have an audience for that. For this breast cancer, we have a big audience to anybody who's interested in breast cancer.
We'll have to stop here.
Yeah.
And we'll invite you back when you're ready to talk about that movie more and show us some video clips. Suzannah, Michael, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
This has been Indie Encounter, a journey into the world of the independent creators of art and artistic expression. I want to thank today's guests, Suzannah Warlick and Michael Schwartz, for sharing their voices and their flair for visual storytelling with us. If you want to find out more about today's guests, Google them. Suzannah is S-U-Z-A-N-N-A-H, Warlick, W-A-R-L-I-C-K. Michael is M-I-C-H-E-L, Schwartz, S-C-H-W-A-R-T-Z. Or go to her website, bubblesoup.productions.com. Check out our website here, PasadenaCommunityNetwork.com, and select the Arroyo channel. You may also check out my website, oneformark.com. Thanks to our director, Lilia Fernandez-Gaspar, and crew for making the show possible. Thanks to all of you. We hope to see you here again when we embark on another Indie Encounter.